Hi everybody. I wanted to do another video response. This one is actually going out to TowerGuardDM, Win, and on his topic of some of the frustrations and difficulties with the really heavy reliance on miniatures and miniature style combat and all the extra levels of complexity and detail that are added into those kinds of systems. And I understand what you're going through, man, and I've actually have gone through it and kind of still go through it. In fact, it's really kind of shaped the way I look at a lot of RPGs. The way I approach my desire to play a lot of RPGs is really influenced by that style of gaming, and how that's really, there's been kind of a real significant kind of tangible shift in the way those games play and are designed post kind of D&D 3rd edition, when I think it really kind of hit the mainstream that minis was almost like what you did when you were designing a game. And classically speaking, in my experience, has been mostly with games that are not so minis intensive. And I'm kind of like a very visual person, so I like to give visual references to my players, but also in the past I've never done that with miniatures so much. We always kind of played it out of our imaginations. Like you said, I think that let you be a little more free and creative, and just kind of like get lost in the world of the game. And for me, what I found was that the miniatures, when it was focused too heavily on what was in front of you on the table, I kind of had a disconnection. I kind of lost that investment. It became distracting to me. But so anyway, I want to kind of show a few different ways. Well, I was going to kind of show like what I do, or what I have done, and what I do continue to do in my games even today, in terms of how I like to handle mapping out combat and all that kind of thing, but also present a couple of different options that are for some of the games that I know of out there, in ways that you can have that more detailed level of combat without having everything to be structured neatly onto increments of 5 feet and stuff like that. And I think there's been some really progressive and interesting design in branching out and getting out of that 5-foot think. And so I was just going to kind of talk about that a little bit. One of the things I mentioned, that I'm a visual reference kind of a person, and so in general in my games I like to give players, I'll describe things to players, and then when possible I like to give them like just a little extra something to give them an idea of what I'm talking about, so everybody kind of has a shared imagination, or at least a shared jumping off point for that imagination. And so Star Wars is one of the examples where I'll describe like, okay, you're being attacked by this pirate corvette ship, and it as it jumps out of hyperspace and it deploys its starfighters, and oh yeah, and by the way, the ship kind of looks like this, and that way I give them kind of like a visual reference, at least, to say, okay, it's a Carillion 6 transport, and it's huge, and it looks kind of like this, and that way they latch onto that and they say, okay, now I can imagine, we would want to approach the ship from this angle, and we would want to do this, and we'd want to do that. Or I'll be saying, okay, you guys are milling about on this old decrepit space station. The metal deck plates creak as you walk over them, and the neon lights are flickering from poor maintenance. And and then I'll just kind of like find something to show them, and I'll say, yeah, it kind of looks like this. It's crowded with spacers and unsavory types milling about, and it just looks like it's poor, decrepit, run down. And again, I'll give them the description, but I'll also give them kind of like a visual nugget that they can look at, and they can say, okay, I'm starting to get the picture. I see what you're talking about. There's these huge windows, like in this picture. Okay, yeah, the outside walls of that space station are covered with kind of like full windows, and there's cables exposed and all this kind of stuff. So it gives them a little extra cue. It gives them a little, I find it gives them a little extra incentive to kind of carry the descriptions of the game on with me. So they kind of add to the flavor, knowing that, feeling comfortable that they have a visual reference that they can kind of add pieces onto it, which becomes, I think, a little trickier if the players are kind of confused about what you're describing, or if they're understanding what the situation, what the scene really looks like. And so when possible, I like to give those kinds of cues. In a general sense, I just used the old, the old graph paper, and and we would just, and even today, like I said, just if players are asking for a visual reference, I'll just give them quick sketches. It's kind of the old school way. Okay, you're on this corridor and it kind of like winds down this way and it comes to a dead end and there's a service door here. There's several kind of like alcoves that line this inner wall, and then this is all like those big like full wall windows over here. And you guys kind of like come stumbling around the corner and you're standing more or less like this, and then you notice the crowd starts to thin out, and then these guys are like trailing behind you. There looks like there's about 6 of them, and and I'll just do like quick representations like that, and if I need to kind of set the scene, and sometimes I don't even break that out until, or most times I don't even break that out until the players, kind of get that look on their face, like, okay, so what does this room really look like, or where are the exits, oh, you described a hangar bay that opens out on this one side. What does it look like? How many ships are out, in the hangar, and that sort of thing. And so that's just kind of my style. In general, I just take a very loose approach to the whole thing. And again, it just really depends more upon like me and the players getting kind of collaborating on that vision. And I've never had a great deal of problem with that. Some people say that players, can get frustrated by not knowing the exact position of everything, and that they want to know that enemy X is over here and that enemy Y is 10 feet away from him over here, and all that kind of thing. And there's 10 tables in the tavern, and which squares have a table and which squares don't have a table. And I just find that distracts from my game. I don't like it a lot, because I want a more. Then again, I'm a cinematic type of action GM, so I just want that cinematic action. I don't want to have to tell you, exactly where every chair is in the bar. I just, I give you a picture of a bar. I tell you this is what it kind of looks like, and use your imagination. And if your character wants to pick up a bar stool, by all means, if it's cool and dramatic for your character to do that, and assuming that there's not something that directly contradicts it, like you said, your character was specifically standing outside the front door. Well, I'm not going to let you just suddenly grab a bar stool out of nowhere, but you can say, okay, I want to run over to the bar, and say, okay, well, you can move over to the bar this round and you can pick up a bar stool or whatever it is. So I just handle it very loosely, and then I'm going to talk about the concept of zones and areas and how to use those on a grid. And Fate and a few other games do this.